Thank
Welcome.
Page 4, first paragraph. In the event that the town has current contract in place for legal services, rates that are below rates we have quoted, the firm is willing to honor lesser existing rates until January 1, 2013. We were under contract with him, it's like $2,500 a month.
The comparison can't be made in that respect. There's a whole lot happened since Hannah's left us, by the way he put it. And I am looking at, yes, we budgeted 2013, we budgeted 120K. 30K granted, 30K may be a point you want to make. I would like to cut that 120 down by 50% to 60K. I think that will be a positive move, and virtually, I'm very comfortable with that number, 60K.
Let me back up here for a minute, and Jamie, you gotta help bail us out here a little bit, but I wanna go off of 51,310 legal fees for a minute. We got 51,320 legal fees to be reimbursed, and I wanna get my arms around this and have everybody else at the table do it. Last Thursday night, we had a lengthy discussion about our schedule, and we dealt with the ordinance issue for fees that applicants would pay for CSMs and rezoning and accessory buildings and all that type of stuff. And if you recall, we had the lengthy discussion about that basically the town would be asking applicants to sign a memorandum of understanding, basically what I would describe as a blank check to pay for engineering fees, legal fees, and planning fees. And my understanding is then the town was going to be looking for direct reimbursement from them on those things, from those applicants, dollar for dollar. I think that's quite different than what the historical norm had been for the town, but leaving that issue, so I'd like to deal with 51,320 first, because are we not saying, which again concerns me, but the ordinance that we put in place, that all of the legal fees that the town attorney bills the town for related to any of these kind of development issues or what are not are going to be reimbursed. Is that what 51,320 is or not?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so my question is, if you go and look at Hector's bills, haul a bunch of them out, an incredible amount of the time that he logs there and what he ends up getting paid is basically related to, I'll call them development kind of thing. There are things that come from petitioners and applicants. So we got to put a different number in there as to what's appropriate for that. I guess I think that's the place that we ought to start. I mean, I see we're saying 1,140.
No, this
That's,
is,
and you got to explain that. We've
I
been
do.
reimbursed more than that, or what?
that's what your AR aging is. But I didn't do the entirety of what's all out there and in there, and I can give that comparison if you like. What was set up in the budget last year, I believe it was mid-year, with the acceptance through our auditor, was this reimbursed became, it used to be originally set up where I call it a 4,000 and 5,000. 4,000 being my income account and my 5,000 being an expense account. Where then this number would, just like you do with your garbage, you have your income and your outcome offset there. It was asked upon to move the numbers into this 5,000 as an in and out. Your bill and invoice are in this same account.
Sure.
So you're consistently running a zero balance. The only way is
Yeah.
if I run my AR aging, will let you know what's outstanding money-wise.
Yeah, I want to, for a minute, to try to simplify this, at least for me, is just for the moment, not look at it from an accounting perspective per se. But we are looking to to pay the town attorney, the municipal court thing is set aside in one pile already. We just did that, it's $51,200. So I mean, at this point in time, that $9,000 budget thing that we're estimating as a possibility, you can, for the moment, you could put behind there De La Mora and De La Mora, right? Because that's where that money would end up going. 51,320 legal fees to be reimbursed, or maybe we should even say on that, I don't, mine's being reimbursed, but that's gonna be charged back to other people. What are we estimating that number would be if we're gonna take all of the attorney's fees, and if it's another issue, all of the attorney's fees that are attributable to him reviewing all the stuff that has to do with people that are coming in here looking to try to develop things or build things or split land apart? What are we thinking that number's gonna be? And you can put De La Mora and De La Mora behind that as well.
Well, why don't we go?
Because that doesn't belong
that's
in
right.
51,310.
Why don't we look at what it is year to date?
It's not, because well, okay, I can run the report. Because you're typically running this then as a zero balance. Your in and out are in the same account. There is no separate in.
I guess, and we talked about that, can we not make a separate in and out type
And
thing
that's
to
up
show?
to you guys.
I
It was
would
changed
prefer to
last
see
year.
that to show
Maybe it was
what-
at budget, but I'm not.
To show what is actually expended
Sure.
and what
And
is
then we.
actually received as income. And we
Typic-
know those are not necessarily gonna balance
Correct.
in any
Given
given
year.
year, because there's gonna be some lead and lag and slack
Correct.
at the end of the year that I guess I would think that you would do the accounting part of that when it is
And typically.
paid to De La Mora. I mean, we don't sit and not pay him waiting until Morgan Butler pays us, right? I
No,
mean,
the
we got a
bill would come
24
out, but
month.
it still would set in this account. It's not included in your 51310. It's not included. So any of those reimbursed fees are in here. This is just your general billing under 51310. That's how it shows. That's just your general. Everything that's being reimbursed is under here. Now, typically for budget purposes, I send an email out to my engineer, my planner, and attorney going, what is your anticipated cost gonna be for your reimbursement? And they typically come back with a, average or a guess or whatever, if they feel what's already out there feeling project-wise. So then at least those numbers we can get in there. However, because the way it's been set up, it runs as a zero because it offsets right away.
So,
And after the 31st of the day, because this was ran on the
I
13th,
guess I
so
would
that's why
like
I
not
wanted
to see it
to.
offset.
That's up to the board.
so give us a number of where it is for this year to date, if we go to July 31st, if you have it that current.
You're saying for the legal fees, how much we have expended on legal fees that we are seeking reimbursement for?
Yes, and how much we've actually received.
Both of them.
Yes.
How much we have extended in bills and how much we've actually received. I mean, this is great, thanks for putting this in, Jamie. I mean, this AR aging thing, we got the 15,271.20, which shows all the stuff we've sent out for reimbursement, but I'm assuming that has got a significant amount of that is planning, there's some legal and maybe even some engineering.
What I can do
right?
is get that for you, because I have to then export it to an Excel with your detail showing exactly what's been invoiced out, because, bear with me.
I mean, while Jamie's doing that, my whole point on this, Mike, is let's just say we end up, I don't know, I'm just picking a number out of the sky, but let's say we put another $9,000 in there already, okay?
I'll show you so you guys know.
Just grab this.
9,000 and where?
In 51,320, and I have no idea this, whether that's a correct number or not, okay? I mean, maybe it's a grand.
Go ahead.
You think it's a
Well,
grand or not?
again,
No,
if you guys give me a moment,
Okay.
this is what I look at. And this is why, if you guys like it too, because it's just a couple steps, but, the screen here, I have it broken out by groups who we're billing, like enterprise, all of the people that we AR'd, okay? I'll have to do a certain date for this year. but then we have the invoice and payment offsetting, so it's not a true number, it's gonna continually be, but I can let you know what we received in, under the legal fees, that we received a bill on. Does that make sense? I have to export it, put it through a formula.
I mean, you're saying do that now or next meeting?
I'm asking you guys.
If
I
you
kinda,
just give
like-
it, if you give us a, you don't have to print it out, just give us a, about or.
Well, and
Yeah,
I
so we
can't
can
do
move
that
on.
without exporting.
We don't wanna get hung up on this thing forever, but
No.
I mean, should that appropriately have a yellow thing to it? I mean, we need to decide what to put in there, right? Or I guess the first thing she's saying, my preference, you guys win, I would prefer on the engineering, the planning, and the legal stuff, I would prefer to see in the budget part of it here, the actual and true numbers of what we have paid for those services and what we've actually recovered by reimbursement, and not to have them wash out.
I concur.
I think that'd be more.
It's up to you guys. You
honest
can
and-
change it around.
Honest and useful information,
Yeah.
if that's not a hard thing to do. And we know at some point in time, you get to a certain year, those are gonna be out of balance because you're gonna get to the point that you
Because
get
right
your
now, when you look at it, it
entry
looks
counts
as
and stuff.
screwed, because of the example, if you have 2012 ARs outstanding, which we have some.
Right.
So, the number that's sitting in there is only for 2013, not 2012, you'd have to go back and look.
You've got 2012 ARs outstanding for legal, for all professional services, whether it be engineering, planning, or legal?
Correct.
And how do we go about collecting that?
Through our invoicing, which is in those accounts, and
So we're just sending in an invoice, we're not sending out Moose and Rocco?
their invoices telling them that they're going to be going to a collection by the
Okay.
end of the year. Or to
And a
taxes,
significant,
depending-
this is a significant
depending on
number
who they are.
of those are the contested things with 5 diamonds
So
and real
that's,
estates. no?
to me, I call that a special situation, because he's contesting them.
I understand.
And he has the bills in front of him, so those.
Fair, but so backing up then, do we have other ARs that go back to 2012, 2011, 2000, whatever that were in that?
We're
period?
pretty much current on that.
Okay,
other than the
that's
5
good.
diamonds, you know.
That's good.
We just take these as-
Okay, so then if you translate that way, and you say these are things that are being contested, considering that we don't have a lot of ARs that go back before 2013.
Typically-
Is that fair?
Typically, they're paid before they can hit the tax roll and or
Okay.
collections. We'll take the extra steps to try to make them paid before that too.
Got it. Okay.
Because it's not something it's extra work for us to do too, to get it on and
Yep.
work with the county and or
Okay.
collections. I'm gonna ask if I can bring this back next time.
That's fine.
I gotta switch it around. Put it on next.
I'm still, at this point in time, till that number comes back for 51.
Sure, and what I can do, if you'd like, for the 2014 budget, is come back with that income account
Mhm.
shown on the front page for you, for the board, on top, in front of there, along with that expense account.
That'd be perfect.
And then you guys can, because you're gonna want that income and outcome to offset, there's your zero from the
Yep.
income end, because it would be the
We
same.
would budget that to wash.
Correct.
Both on the planning,
Yes.
the engineering.
But that
and
would
the
be your
legal.
wash.
We would budget to wash on those.
Correct.
And then we'll simply be tracking actuals.
Yes.
That makes perfect sense.
Do you think you'd like those all boom, boom, boom in one category, reimbursable fees? Or do you want them separated, engineering, planner, legal, the way that it is now? Just so it's easy to look at, or?
The only
That's
difference
up to you, because it goes under the numbers. The number that's
Sequence.
typically
Fair
assigned is under that category
Fair enough,
section.
then leave it.
So-
Under the income, though, it'll go boom, boom, boom.
Okay.
Bottom line, so we can move on in planning that number, even regardless of the, I cannot get beyond or more than 30,000 for 51,310 legal fees. Just no way to justify it.
Am I leaving this blank at this moment?
Larry?
I don't think 30 is enough.
Why?
Right now it's forecasted for 80. And is that just general?
That's general.
I don't
Well-
see how you can go.
And that's not, I shouldn't, now this estimate is because lately, the billing has
Went
come down
Right,
significantly.
so like 3,000 a month or something.
So, that billing there is, that's not, I wouldn't, that's something I can readjust to, because I believe I actually used the lower number, so. But,
I think there's ways that we can get that fee down. For instance, most towns around us do not have an attorney present at their meetings. Why do we?
I think that's not a good idea, personally.
Why?
We've got too many times that we need to ask for opinion, and if he's not there, we're gonna be tabling more stuff or doing it wrong than we are now. That's my opinion.
Take a look at, you got the two-page sheet that Jamie put together, just take a look at this. And I think this is insightful or helpful to you a bit. If you look at that, Jamie's carrying a number on that, 67,225.90, and that's just even a skosh above the 64,638.40, because there's, on here, Jamie, there's one more piece that went in.
I
here since
apologize,
then.
I usually put my formula when there are oddities like that off on the side, and I did
Well,
it.
don't worry about it. No, all I'm saying is, on here, through August 13th.
Yeah.
You're showing legal fees 51,310, 64,638.40.
Mhm.
That's an actual number.
That's an actual number.
All I'm saying is, this run here, 67,225.90 is because we paid something since then. Is that
Mhm.
not this account?
Correct.
So,
Yeah, 'cause this
and
would
that
be
was
last billing.
that was De La Mora's last bill or whatever, but if you look at it, Larry, you can take, in my judgment on this, Bruce Baker, what is being carried in that is $5,062.50, okay? At this point in time, we're done with Bruce Baker,
Right.
okay, so we're not anticipating anything there. O'Neill, Cannon, Pullman, DeYoung, and Lang, I think is mostly town, well, you can see town of Brookfield, there's a little bit of city of Waukesha stuff. Yes, we got his letter, and nobody's saying uncle on that yet, but I mean, there's $7,900, and there'll be a couple more dollars to him yet this year. But looking into next year, there's wishful thinking. I'm hoping we don't have to much go to Dean Lang for anything. My hope, you look at the stuff with De La Mora and De La Mora, they've got, may not be huge amounts, but they've got quite a bit of money in there for town
They're
appropriate
sitting
stuff.
at 52 versus at 67.
And all that type of thing. So there's a lot of this stuff that I think we better not be seeing next year. Attorney and Blakeney, is it at Blakeney? I mean, that is the guy in Seattle, right? The $1,500. That's legal town of Brookfield. Hopefully, we're done with him and don't get to that Department of Administration hearing. I mean, if we need to, we can revise the budget to do it. But next year, 2014, better look a heck of a lot different on legal fees than 2013 looked like 2012 or 2011. It better be the dawning of a new day.
And if you look at the last 2 months, the period May through June 28th and June 19th through 7/19, you're averaging $2,300 a month with De La Mora. There's no reason that should change.
I mean, you look at the gulpers here, look at on the first page, 2/28/2013, that's the date of the invoicing, is it?
Pardon?
On here, these are dates of the invoicing.
Dates on the invoice, that,
So,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, they just
presumably that is
typically,
a month of increment.
Right, the end of the month for the-
$12,931 to, or $329, end of March, $12,362. The other huge one here, May 31st, $13,000. I mean, those things were clocking $12,000 to $13,000 a month. Those days had better be over.
Which isn't at that time frame of the open records request? Some of
that's
that.
gonna be under your general matters. If there was anything, under the legal, it'll say general matters, that would be rolled into that amount.
Okay, so-
Anything that it's, if there's a bulk matter, town of
Right,
Brookfield, stuff
right.
like that, we classify that out, so when you look at that, you know that, okay, general
If it
matters,
belongs
yes, it
somewhere.
would be the open records or any of those items.
Okay, so some of them big 12,000s would have been the time where he was going
Possibly.
over the emails.
Could have been.
That's probably part of it.
Mhm.
So that was 2 big chunks.
But the point is that this has been whittled down now.
Yeah, but Okay, so then the 79 is not just general matters, that's everything in that section,
Well-
Town of Brookfield, all that together?
I consider that all general matters, but yes, we just classify them for your guys' benefit to know what that's being utilized for.
And it was Bruce Baker.
It still comes out of the town's budget number as a whole, whereas your separate line reimburse, it comes,
Right, right.
it gets,
I mean,
what?
I suppose you could have taken Bruce Baker, he's not an attorney, I mean, we could have made a separate category for that if we wanted to, that would be, you know, a water consultant or something like that. The reality of it is, we hope, we no longer have an agreement or an engagement with him, so we should not be spending, we don't anticipate at this point in time spending any more money on Bruce J. Baker Services LLC for 2014. And if it should come to occasion, and we need to do that and re-engage him, then we need to do a budget amendment at that time. So the more I talk about it, I'm almost thinking the 30's high.
I think it's a bad idea not to have our legal advice present at our meetings. Get input from residents that these meetings have turned into be a long time meeting that virtually can be resolved in a much more speedy manner, if you will. That amongst other things are not liked, but to shortchange our residents based on, perfect example is, was brought to my attention, that there was an illegal, what I said and was quoted in the newspaper was wrong. And anyway, that could have been avoided.
It was avoided that evening, Mike. We looked it up in Robert's Rules of Order. You just simply didn't believe it. You didn't believe what was in print.
John told you that you were wrong.
Once again, that's just a perfect example of something that go afoul without recognition from the attorney that should be present for our residents.
Mike, he didn't even know the answer when we asked him. It was in the book. All you
It
had to do was
wasn't
pick
there.
up the book. I asked him that individually. He didn't even know the answer. And all you had to do was pick up the book and look at it.
I am not an attorney.
You don't
There
have
will
to be
be
an attorney. It's in
situations
writing.
forthcoming that need is forte. Therefore, I am thoroughly opposed to inviting, and I did indicate that clearly in the last meeting, that there is no way that is your judgment call to invite the attorney at any particular meeting of the town. That is a policy set by the board.
Has that
and
policy been set by the board?
We can make that happen.
Have at it, Mike. We'll have you and
Place it
Larry
on the
and
agenda,
Joe
please, for
go
September
on
12th.
record saying that you want to flush more money down the toilet on attorneys and have him attend at every meeting, unlike most every other town in the vicinity.
Here's part of the concern, Mike, or I guess I look at it, and seriously, if we go back to these bills kind of thing, Attorney De La Mora was at the meeting a couple months back when we talked about appointments to the Plan Commission. At the beginning of the meeting, he stated clearly and without question that it was an appointment by the chair that did not require confirmation or a vote by the town board. I'm sure you remember that. We went on some couple hours later, and at the end of the meeting, probably $450, $500 later for him, he came back and said, oh, by the way, we were at the motion to adjourn. Just one thing to clarify or remind you, you do have to have board confirmation of that. From my point of view, we shouldn't even pay him for his attendance at that night's meeting. That might sound hard-edged. How can you give us two completely and totally contradictory opinions at one meeting when you're sitting there? Both of them cannot be right. I don't think we should be paying for that kind of service that night to have somebody sit there and give us that advice. That's my opinion.
Well, if that.
What value was that to the town?
If that was totally the truth,
It is.
Where is it different?
I say if.
Where is it not the truth?
Well, when John appointed and or wanted a particular individual and it didn't happen, there was a vote on it. And
No,
if
Hector
in fact.
gave us two completely different opinions. Go watch Sandy's YouTube or go listen to the videotape. He basically
I don't
said
wanna
the
argue.
sun rises in the.
I wanna
Why don't we-
argue.
why don't we
We're
just-
not
we're not
arguing.
arguing.
You have your
We're
opinion.
talking, about-
We're
we're
not
not
having
an opinion,
an
it's a
opinion.
fact, it's a fact.
Go forward.
And if you,
It's a
and
fact.
if you
That's where
can't-
I agree. Let's
Go
skip
forward.
over that and let's finish
We
the
can
rest.
sit
No,
here,
let's finish
we
it.
do enough of that in front of our residents out
Yeah.
there. That to
Let's-
me, literally
let's
is inexcusable.
Finish it.
So go forward.
No, let's get to this
I don't
point,
wanna
because
talk.
this is a sticking point that we're gonna have to deal with, so let's deal with it.
All
What do
right.
you wanna do?
My sticking
Table
point
it.
is 60K. End of conversation.
Why?
for me.
We just showed you that you've been spending $2,350 a month for the last 3 billing periods.
I want that attorney there every
He
meeting.
has been at $2,350.
Well, then, Mike, let's ask you this, how much, at $2,500 a month, how many hours of his time does that buy?
I didn't do the math. He
16
does a lot
hours is
behind
20,
the scenes.
16 hours is $2,400. Let me just follow through on it, okay? Now, the first thing, I will agree with you completely. You and I can find common ground. Our meetings last too long. I don't think if Attorney De La Mora is sitting there, the meetings would be shorter. That's my point of view. I'll agree with you, they're too long. He's not gonna change the dynamic of that. Let's just even assume we have him here for 2 meetings a month. Just assume that for a minute, okay? If we get our act together, which is a big if, those ought not be more than 2-hour meetings. I went to a meeting in the town of Delafield last night. It lasted 15 minutes without a town attorney present. We should be able to knock those meetings off in 2 hours apiece average, 4 hours maximum. That's $600, okay? That leaves him $1,900 left, which is 12 hours of time for the rest of the month to deal with things. Plus, that's not the municipal court as an addition to it, and that's not gonna be for the time, the way we set it up, for him to be spent reviewing all kinds of matters that have to do with development issues. How do you anticipate he's gonna be spending his time? I mean, build it bottom up. I'm asking you that as a practical man, do the math. How are we gonna get to these horrendous legal fees that we never had until 2011? How are we gonna get to that? Do the math. It doesn't work.
Hopefully, we're not going to.
So we need
So we
to have
can
a
cut
budget
the
that
budget
makes
this
sense.
year, and then if it reflects that there's still, we're over budget, then we change the budget again next year.
So we're saying put in 30 grand. I agree with you completely. And if for some reason that isn't working, there's good reason for it, we can revisit it, but it's a place to start. There's no way that you can do the math and come up with anything that is gonna exceed $30,000 for general legal fees. No way.
And moreover, Hector's already agreed to that fee.
That's right.
Yeah, till January of last year, or this year.
So then we
We're
ask
past
him.
that.
So then we
How's that
ask him
fundamentally
to
different?
negotiate, I'll negotiate with him to get it, to move forward with it. And extend that agreement. He's already agreed to it. We've been overpaying him. He's agreed to that in writing. And the previous board has been overpaying him for 2 years. According to this document right here, in writing, he agreed to 30 grand. He owes us a refund as far as I'm concerned. And an awful big one.
You know, you're good at lying, and you're good about lying.
Oh, hold on a
Mike.
second. Hold on a second. You're calling me a liar how, Mike? What did I lie about?
Twist words.
No, what word did I twist?
You
You be
didn't-
specific, please.
I don't
It's
wanna
right
argue.
here in writing. No,
Let's
no,
not go with
you
the
called
liar
me,
stuff.
you called me a liar, so now you justify your comment, please.
60K, move forward.
No, Mike, you called me a liar, you justify your comment. I'm not gonna sit here and have you call me a liar.
Our attorney indicated very clearly that he will do whatever we want him to do and be paid accordingly. What you're doing is twisting 2011 January to favor that we're overpaying him. That's wrong thinking. That's twisting of words.
It's what he put in writing. I'm not twisting any words. It's his words, and I'm reading them directly out of his letter, Mike. How am I twisting words? And you called me a liar. Please justify that.
You're twisting words, John.
Tell me which word I've twisted.
He will, do you acknowledge the fact that he will do what we ask him to do?
Sure.
Okay.
If we ask him to perform
Then
as
if we
per
have
this previous
X-
contract,
Oh.
then how is that twisting any words?
Then if we have X for a budget, okay, we only ask him to do X work, and we're inside that 30K, 60K, 20K, okay? How will that affect the apple cart with his dollar amount for his firm and the work that we request him to do.
I couldn't care less about his firm and his firm's survival, or whether whether Mora eats
Don't
prime
go.
steak or choice steak. I couldn't care less. What I care about is the taxpayers in the town of Waukesha and getting our legal fees in line. Now,
So
let me ask
what?
you a question. You were the chair. How could you possibly have run this town on a 30 grand a year budget for legal fees?
It wasn't even that much,
There
then, was
was-
it?
My God, you're going back 15 years, man. Did we have the same comparison with what we had the last couple of years with lawsuits and stuff?
We don't have any of those lawsuits any longer, Mike. Which
We
lawsuit are
still
we
have
engaged
some
in?
unfinished business, and there still
Such
is,
as?
by everybody's agreement, there still is a crystal ball out there, and nobody's got a for sure one.
Wait a minute, what are we still engaged in? What litigation are we
We
engaged
will
in?
be engaged, according to the letter from Lang, we will be, February 3rd, when they're waiting for the appeals court to come back, that's 2014. Then he will take such action after that case. So that's 2014, and yes, there will be potential there for us to be involved in something. Am I correct?
Then we'll amend the budget if we need
There
to.
we go, there, why have
We
a
may
budget?
get a,
I'm not gonna argue with you
I'm not
fellas, I'm
arguing.
here to
We're sitting reasonably.
take care of business
We-
and move on.
we may get involved in some
Now, let's do it.
situation.
Let's think about that.
We may get involved in some situation where we, on any of these type of things, where we may have expenses that we don't anticipate. That's why you make a budget amendment. That's what it's for, Mike.
Sure.
We may have 110-inch snowfall year. We'd have to amend the budget to increase
That's
the
coming
cost
up.
for snow.
But we're not
So-
gonna put in $500,000 for snow plowing.
I mean, what,
It's done now.
there's a lot of what-ifs available, but we deal with those on the basis that they occur. You can't plan for every contingency.
Fine, you have your opinion, I have mine. I gave you the reasons, let's move on. Why do you wanna continue to beat this? I'm not gonna change my mind just because you badger me left and right here.
We're
Let
just
go of
asking
the
you to have a
stare.
logical thought, that's all.
Okay.
I'd say cutting the budget in half is logical.
And how do you come up
How
with that
do you
reason?
arrive at $5,000 a month, Larry? I just showed you what we've been spending for the last
Do we
3
have to
months.
spend 5,000?
Yeah.
Do we have to?
Nobody says we have to spend it just because it's budgeted.
Why would you budget to spend $5,000 on an attorney? One of the most wasteful things we could possibly have in the town.
Did you get that? The attorney's a wasteful thing? Okay, I'm.
Yeah, so-
We spent, here's a question just for you guys to answer. From 2000 and maybe before that, Mike, maybe go back and find out what was spent when you were chair. 2004 through
I am not gonna
2009.
argue you. You're
Just let me
blowing
finish.
smoke, Fisher.
I'm not blowing any smoke. 2000, a fact, Mike.
Go on.
2004 to 2009, we spent I had a monthly retainer of $2,500 per month with no increase, the 6-year period, 2004 through 2009. What is different anticipating 2014 that isn't the same shoe size, the same fit as that would have been? If you want to say, well, maybe, and that was with Jim Hamlis charging an hourly rate if he got to special work that was $200 to $220 an hour. Hector's is $150 an hour. If we get to some special consideration, we can look at that. What's wrong with paying the historical norm of what we pay for legal fees? You gotta come up with an answer to that that has some reasoning.
Get what you pay for. We got what we paid for with Hamlis. So, end of conversation for me. So ask me all you want, Fisher.
Jamie, at the end of the day,
Come up
who's responsible for putting that number in there? Is it a board decision? Is it a decision by
Last year
the
the board put
electorate?
it in.
Pardon?
Last year the board put it in the year before.
At the end of the day, whose responsibility is it?
You guys as the board is
Okay,
in
so
charge
it's
of
a
the
majority?
budget.
Is it a
Sure,
majority?
take a vote.
I didn't ask
We
you.
don't vote here, it's a workshop.
When,
So is it a board decision of what goes in, or is it the electorate?
Well, for the budget purposes, you would still need a number in there.
Okay.
At the meeting of the electors in, when this is presented in October or November, the public has the right to change anything at that time, it's
Okay.
open.
Put in 60. At that point, we'll advise the public that Brian Fisher and I want to cut the legal budget back to what it should be, and that the other three want to leave it at 60 grand and continue flushing money. I'm fine with that.
The other,
Put
that's
in
right,
60.
Joe isn't even here.
Well, you know how he's gonna be.
You wanna put in 45, is that a
So
place
then-
for today, if you got two at 60 and two at 30?
I want 60, okay?
Well, are you willing to put in 45? We got two at 30, two
I'm
at 60.
listening, Joe isn't here.
I understand
can
that, but
listen.
we wanna put something in for today.
So
Will
you
put in
wanna-
45?
No.
Obviously,
Let's
you're
put in
setting the
60, like
stage for
Jamie said,
November
the-
hearing where you can
the
create
public
an
can vote it
argument
down.
out there and discredit this board, meaning.
You do enough for
You
yourself. I
guys
don't need to
still approve
discredit
it,
you.
don't get me
Put it-
wrong,
Put
because the
60
board,
grand
the
in.
public has to, because last
Put in-
year there
Well,
was.
yeah, but if the public
If you
talks,
remember
then
the
we'll
meeting,
approve it.
that's up to you guys, because last year, if you guys go back to the minutes for the budget hearing, there was a lot of discrepancy on this item also, because the amount being too low.
Right. I
They
remember
wanted
that.
more, if you hear the public, and go back to the tapes. So, I mean, there's more than just, they just change it. There's motions, I mean, it's a big detailed aspect of that.
60 is the number, that's fine.
Let's move on.
Auditing,